The initial hint was barely a whisper. A subtle shift in the way her gaze avoided mine, a chill in the air that seemed to linger between us, even though we were inches apart. I initially tried to ignore it, dismissing it as work-related stress or the natural ebb and flow of a long marriage. But the doubt knotted me, festering in the quiet moments between our conversations as her touch became hesitant and distant. "Is everything okay, Laura?" I asked her one evening, my voice tinged with a concern I tried to conceal. She stood at the kitchen counter, scrolling through her phone, her expression unreadable. She looked up at me. Her smile was forced and thin. "Yeah. Just tired, I guess," she said dismissively. She returned to her phone, her fingers tapping out a message that I could not see. Tired. It had become her go-to excuse. Tired of not wanting to talk. "We're tired of skipping our usual Friday night dinner." I was tired of turning away as I reached for her in bed, but I wasn't convinced anymore. There was something else. Something darker lies beneath the surface, and I was determined to figure out what it was. "Perhaps you need a break," I suggested, attempting to sound casual. "Why don't you go on a weekend trip with your friends? Relax and unwind a little." She looked up in surprise at the suggestion. "A trip? I do not know. Work has been extremely busy. Come on, Laura. You deserved it. I will take care of things here. Just have fun. It'll do you good." Her eyes searched mine, as if looking for a hidden motive, but she eventually nodded. "Okay, maybe you're correct. I could use some time off as soon as she agreed." A plan began to emerge in my mind. I would send her away, give her the space she seemed to crave so much. And then I would follow. If my suspicions were incorrect, I would find nothing but peace, perhaps a little guilt for not trusting her. But if I was correct, I needed to know. I had to see it with my own eyes. The next morning, I booked a flight for her to a small seaside resort town that she had always wanted to visit, but had rarely done so. "Take Layla and Sarah with you." I suggested, naming two of her close friends. "Make it a girls' weekend." She hesitated briefly before agreeing. As she texted her friends that evening, a faint sigh of relief crossed her face. After she left, I packed a small bag, making sure to leave behind anything that might connect me to her. I didn't want her to know I was coming. I didn't want her to have the opportunity to cover her tracks, if my suspicions proved correct. The next day, I arrived at the same resort and kept a low profile. The town was quaint, nestled between rolling hills and the shimmering blue of the ocean. I checked into a small hotel on the outskirts, far from where she was staying. Then I waited. That evening, I saw her. She was sitting in the hotel restaurant, as I had anticipated, but she was not alone. My heart pounded in my chest as I noticed him, a man I had never seen before. They were sitting next to her on the plush velvet sofa, talking and even laughing, and she was looking at him. It was a look I hadn't seen from her in a while, a look of desire and affection. Laura, who I had known for months, was no longer cold and aloof, replaced by someone I barely recognized. I forced myself to remain calm and blend in with the other patrons as I moved closer. They did not notice me. They were too absorbed in each other and whatever conversation they were having. My fists clenched as I saw him lean in closer, his hand slipping under the table and disappearing from sight. I let out a gasp when I realized what was going on. Her expression reflected how her body tensed and then relaxed. There was no mistaking it. He was touching her, pleasuring her right in the middle of the restaurant, visible to anyone who bothered to look. But nobody did. They were lost in their own world, completely unaware of the gazes of those around them. I wanted to storm over, pull him away from her, and demand an explanation, but I didn't. I could not. Not yet. I needed to see how far she would go, how deep the betrayal went. So I stayed in the shadows and watched them finish their meal. They left the restaurant together, his arm around her waist, guiding her out as if they were in a relationship. I followed them, keeping a safe distance as they walked down the dimly lit path to her hotel. They were laughing, and their voices carried through the still night air. I felt a surge of rage, a primal desire to confront them and end this charade. But I held back. I needed to know where they were going and what they intended to do next. When they arrived at her room, she turned to him, resting her hand on his chest. He leaned down and kissed her, and she did not resist. In fact, she drew him close. Her fingers tangled in his hair as she intensified the kiss. That was it. That was all the confirmation I needed. She was cheating and betraying me with this stranger, and she didn't care who witnessed my rage boil over. But rather than confront them, I turned away and returned to my hotel. I needed to think and plan my next move. It would be pointless to confront them in the heat of the moment. No, I would respond in a way that she would never forget. I would ruin her life just as she had destroyed mine. But I'd do it carefully and methodically. I would make sure she couldn't get away. There is no way for her to recover from this. And as for him, well, he'd pay. He had touched what belonged to me, defiled my marriage, and he would pay the price. I had no idea who he was yet, but I would find out. And when I did, I would destroy him in the same way that I destroyed her. I spent the rest of the night in my hotel room, plotting and imagining all the ways I could make them both regret it. My rage was a cold, simmering emotion. I'm no longer filled with rage. I was calm, focused, and determined. The next morning, I checked out of the hotel and left town without speaking to anyone. I'd seen enough. I knew what I had to do. As I drove away, the sea stretched out beside me, and I felt a strange sense of calm. The worst was over. I'd confronted the truth, and it was now time to act. Laura and her lover believed they had won. I assumed they had gotten away with their betrayal. They had no idea what was coming. They had no idea how their lives were going to change, and I couldn't wait to see it happen at home. The morning sun shines through the blinds, creating a warm glow in the kitchen. But there is no warmth within me. The drive back from the resort was extremely long, allowing me too much time to think, allow the anger to fester and grow. But now, standing in the quiet of my own home, it seems almost surreal, as if what I'd seen the night before was a bad dream. I'm not sure how long I've been staring at the kitchen table, replaying every detail of Laura and that man. The sound of my phone vibrating on the counter brings me back into reality. I pick it up, half expecting to see Laura, but it's a message from my friend Simon. "Hey man, I haven't heard from you in a while. Is everything good?" Simon's been my best friend since college. The guy who has seen me through all my highs and lows. We do not talk every day. But when we do, it feels like no time has passed. I pause for a moment before responding to the message. "I could use a drink. You're free." His response is immediate. "It's always my place. Yeah, I'll be there in 30. I tossed my phone on the counter and grabbed my keys. I need to speak to someone. I need to get out of this house, which suddenly feels too empty, too full of memories, of a life that now seems like a lie. Simon lives in a small apartment downtown, a bachelor pad he has had since his previous breakup. The structure is old, with creaky floors and thin walls, but it suits him. As I knock on his door, I hear the muffled sound of the television from inside. The door swings open, and Simon smiles at me, his dark hair tousled. A beer was already in his hand. "You look like hell," he says as a greeting, stepping aside to let me in. I too feel this way. I mutter, accept the beer he offers, and sink into the worn leather couch. The room smells faintly of old pizza and a faint tang of beer. A comforting combination that reminds me of our college days. Simon sits beside me, his expression serious as he takes a swig from his drink. "What's happening? You briefly sounded off in your message. I don't know where to begin. How do you explain that your wife, whom you have loved and trusted for years, has been sneaking around behind your back? That you have witnessed events that you will never be able to forget? I believe Laura is cheating on me." I finally say it, the words heavy and almost foreign on my tongue. Simon's eyes widened with surprise. "What? Are you certain?" I nod, taking a long sip of my beer. "I caught her with some guy at a hotel." They were? Let us just say they were not having a friendly conversation. He gives a low whistle and runs his hand through his hair. "Damn comma man." I apologize. "What are you planning to do?" "That's the thing," I say, placing my bottle on the coffee table and leaning forward, elbows on knees. I'm not going to sit back and accept it. I want to make both her and him pay. Simon's expression darkens, revealing a serious look that I rarely see from him. Revenge. Are you sure that is the way to go? What else could I do? Simon? I snap, my frustration boiling over. She's been lying to me and sneaking around as if I'm an idiot. I need to do something. Something that will make them both regret ever dealing with me. He is quiet for a moment, studying me. Alex, you've always kept your cool. Don, T, let this mess you up. But if you're serious about this, you'll need a plan. That is why I am here. I admit I need your assistance. You're good at this type of thing. Simon raises his eyebrow. Do you want my help getting back at your wife and her lover? I nod and meet his gaze. I can't do this alone. He leans back and considers. All right. However, we must approach this with caution. Make no rash decisions. You have to be cautious. Make sure you don't get yourself into more trouble. I took a deep breath. I'm feeling a small sense of relief. So what should we do? Simon stands up, pacing the room while he thinks. First, you must understand who this individual is. We learn everything we can about him, including his job, family, and weaknesses. If we are going to ruin him, we must strike him where it hurts. Laura, too, I inquire, my tone hardening at the mention of her name. She'll get exactly what she deserves. Do not worry. Simon assures me that he will be patient. If you rush through this, you will make mistakes. You have to play the long game. I nod, knowing he's correct. I'll start digging around and see what I can find out. Consider hiring a private investigator. Simon places a hand on my shoulder. That is a good start. But remember, Alex, once you start down this path, there is no turning back. I ensure that this is exactly what you want. I meet his gaze, anger simmering beneath the surface. It is. I have never been more certain of anything in my life. The remainder of the afternoon is spent planning and strategizing. Simon suggests we start by following Laura, checking her phone records and emails. You might find something she has hidden, something that will give us leverage. When I arrive home that evening, the house is still empty. Laura, not due back until the following day. I sit at the dining table. Simon's words echoed in my head. This is the point of no return, the moment when I must decide whether to let my anger consume me or to walk away. I take out my laptop and log into a shared email account. Laura isn't aware that I have her password. Perhaps she doesn't care either way. It the first place I begin. It does not take long to find something. I received an email from an unfamiliar name, Jeremy. It's brief, just a few lines about meeting up and how much he misses her. As I read this, my blood runs cold. The words confirmed everything I'd suspected. But it is not only the words that bother me. It's the casual tone and familiarity. This is not a new occurrence. It has been going on for a while. They've been there long enough to feel at ease and confident. The thought makes my stomach turn. I scroll down and find more messages, each one like a dagger to the heart. Plans for a secret getaway, private jokes and photos, intimate moments shared with someone other than me. I save everything to a folder on my desktop called evidence. A small act of control, a way to feel like I'm doing something, anything to reclaim power in a situation where I've felt so helpless. Later that night, I lay in bed. The darkness feels oppressive and suffocating. I think about Laura, how much I loved her and still do, despite everything. Betrayal has twisted and poisoned my love, and this is what drives me now. When she gets home tomorrow, she won't notice anything has changed. She won't be aware that I've seen the messages, that I have seen her with another man, but I'll know and be ready. I close my eyes. The plan is taking shape in my mind. I will make her believe everything is fine, that I've learned nothing. I will let her walk into the trap. Let her believe she is safe. And when the time is right, I'll pull the rug out from under her, and she'll realize how wrong she was. As I fall asleep, the anger fades to a cold resolve. The pieces are coming together, and Laura and her lover will soon realize how far I am willing to go. The sound of the front door opening the next morning makes my heart skip a beat. I'm sitting at the kitchen table with a mug of coffee in front of me, pretending everything is fine while scrolling through my phone. My chest tightens as I hear Laura's footsteps approach her suitcase, wheels rolling across the hardwood floor. "Morning," she says, her voice light and almost cheerful. It's the same voice she had when we first met, the voice that could make my worst days bearable. But today, it only serves to exacerbate the rage simmering beneath my calm exterior. Morning, I reply, without looking up from my phone. I take a sip of coffee, the bitterness grounding me and keeping me from seeing something I don't want to reveal just yet. Dot. She enters the kitchen and leans against the counter, her gaze fixed on me. I missed you. She speaks, and her words sound hollow, like an empty promise. I missed you too. I lie and finally look up at her. She's still stunning, with her long, dark hair falling over her shoulders. Her eyes are bright and alert, but now I see the deception that lies beneath the surface. Dot. She has been telling me lies for quite some time now. Who knows how long? She crosses the room and places her hand on my shoulder. Her touch is light and hesitant. Is everything okay? She asks, her brow furrowing in concern. It's almost laughable, her asking if I'm okay while she's tearing our marriage apart behind my back. Just a little tired. I respond by forcing a smile. Dot. You understand how it is. She nods, the worry fading away and replaced by the same easygoing smile she wore when she walked in. I understand exactly what you mean. The weekend was enjoyable, but it's good to be home. I nod and swallow the bile that rises up my throat. So how was it? I ask, attempting to maintain a casual tone. Dot. What about the trip? It was great. She moves to the refrigerator and takes out a bottle of water. Layla and Sarah send their love. We shopped a lot. Ain't too much. As usual. I nodded again, pretending to be interested. But inside, I'm boiling. I know she did not spend the entire time with her friends. I know there was someone else there, but I don't let it show. I keep the mask firmly in place, fooling her into thinking I'm unaffected. That sounds nice, I say, leaning back in my chair. Maybe we should take a trip together soon. It's just the two of us. She hesitates. The bottle of water is halfway to her lips, and I notice something flicker in her eyes. Guilt, perhaps. Dot. But it's gone before I can be certain, replaced by a smile that does not quite reach her eyes. Yeah, that sounds nice, she says, her voice slightly too bright and forced. Following that, the conversation comes to an end. Then she excuses herself to unpack, leaving me alone in the kitchen to think. I stare at the empty doorway, my thoughts racing. Dot. She is a good liar. I will give her that, but I am better. I've had to be mentally strong to get through this long without losing my mind. I grab my phone and text Simon. She's back. We need to move on. This. You free tonight? He responds quickly. Always. Same place. Yeah. 8 p.m. The day drags on. The hours passing slowly as I go through the motions of routine. Laura is always busy unpacking, answering emails, and making phone calls. I catch glimpses of her out of the corner of my eye, and each time I have to remind myself to stay calm and keep the plan on track. Finally, it's 8 p.m. I tell Laura I'm going to get a drink with Simon. She barely looks up from her laptop, simply nodding and telling me to have fun. The ease with which she dismisses me stinks, but I use it to strengthen my resolve. When I arrive at Simon's apartment, he's already waving and has a few beers on the table. His expression is serious. He doesn't waste time exchanging pleasantries. Simply get straight to the point. What did you find out? He asks, passing me a beer. I take a long drink before responding. She's good. I lied to my face this morning about the trip. She claimed she was with Layla and Sarah the entire time. Simon nods, his face hardened. And the guy? I found a few emails. I explain, pulling out my phone and showing him the messages I'd saved. His name is Jeremy. There is no last name in the emails, but this is a start. Simon scrolls through the messages, his gaze narrowing. This seems to have been going on for quite some time. She feels comfortable with him. Too comfortable? Exactly, I say while clenching my jaw. That means we need to be cautious if she has been doing this for a while. She is going to be cautious. We cannot afford to make any mistakes. Simon sets down the phone, his expression thoughtful. We need to figure out who this guy is, where he works, and what his life is like. The more we know about him, the more effectively we can plan. I was considering hiring a PI, I say, expressing an idea that had been on my mind all day. Someone who can investigate his background and obtain the information we require without raising any suspicions. Simon nods. That's clever. I know a guy who is discreet and won't ask too many questions. I'll call him tomorrow. His words make me feel a little relieved. Having someone else involved, someone who can take some of the weight off my shoulders, makes the situation appear more manageable. But remember, Simon adds, his tone serious. This will take time. We're playing a long game here. Do not rush it. I understand, however, that the desire to confront Laura and Jeremy is almost overwhelming, but the sooner we get started, the better. Simon raises his beer. A small smile tugged on the corners of his mouth. To get even, he says, his tone lightening slightly. I repeat, clinking my bottle against his. We spent the next hour working out the details, talking about different scenarios and potential pitfalls. Simon has always been good at this, thinking ahead, anticipating problems before they occur. This is one of the reasons I've always trusted him, even when things were tough. As the night progresses, I experience a strange combination of emotions, including anger, anticipation, and a twisted sense of excitement. The plan is beginning to take shape, and with each passing minute, I can see the pieces coming together. But there's also a perceptible sense of dread. A voice in the back of my mind whispered that once I start down this path, there's no turning back. I am not just planning to catch my wife in the act. I intend to destroy her and the man she's with. And part of me wonders if I'm ready for that, if I'm prepared for the consequences of what I'm about to do, But then I think of those emails of the way Laura looked at me this morning. All the lies she's been telling me for who knows how long. And the anger flares up again, pushing the doubt aside. I've come this far. There's no turning back now. When I finally leave Simon's apartment, the night is cool and quiet, the city lights casting long shadows on the pavement. I drive home in silence, my mind replaying everything we talked about, every detail of the plan. When I walk through the front door, the house is dark, quiet. Laura must already be in bed. I slip off my shoes and head upstairs, my footsteps muffled on the carpet in our bedroom. Laura is lying on her side, her back to me, her breathing deep and even. I stand there for a moment, just watching her. My emotions are tangled. Mess of anger, sadness, and something I can't quite put into words. I get into bed carefully, not wanting to wake her. The sheets are cool against my skin, and I close my eyes, trying to calm the storm raging inside me. But sleep doesn't come easily. My mind is too full. Two restless thoughts of revenge and betrayal swirling in the darkness, and as I lie there staring up at the ceiling, I know that this is only the beginning. The first move has been made, the pieces set in motion. And soon, very soon, Laura and Jeremy will realize just how much they've underestimated me. But for now, I wait, biding my time, letting the anger build. Because when the time comes, I'll be ready. And they won't see it coming. The days drag on, each one heavier than the last, but the plan is progressing. Simon's contact, the private investigator, is efficient, and within a week, I have everything I need. Jeremy Hansen, mid-30s, recently divorced, works as a financial advisor downtown. He's not some random fling. He quote-s someone Laura has been seeing for months, maybe even longer. The photos the Pi provided show them together, laughing, holding hands, kissing in the parking lot of his office building. The anger that flares in my chest each time I look at those images is almost unbearable. But I force myself to keep going. This is what I wanted. I needed proof, and now I have it. But it's the final piece of evidence that seals their fate. A recording captured by the Pi of a conversation they had in Jeremy's car. I listened to it late at night, alone in my study, my hands trembling as I pressed play. I can't keep doing this, Jeremy. Laura's voice, soft and uncertain, crackles through the speakers. I'm lying to Alex every day, and it's killing me. I don't know how much longer I can go on pretending. Jeremy's voice is calm, soothing. You don't have to pretend anymore, Laura. We've talked about this. You deserve to be happy. We both do. Alex will understand eventually. He'll move on. And so will you. There's a pause, and I can hear the sound of her breathing heavy and strained. But what if he doesn't? What if he tries to fight it? He's not going to just let me go. Jeremy, you don't know him like I do. Jeremy laughs, a low, confident sound that makes my skin crawl. He doesn't have a choice. Laura, you're not happy and you deserve better. We both do. I shut off the recording, the room spinning around me. They quote, replanning to leave me. They're planning to walk away from everything we built together. And they're doing it without a second thought. The anger is overwhelming, but beneath it is a crushing sadness, a sense of loss so deep it takes my breath away. This is it. The end of everything. And I realize in that moment that there's no going back. The next morning I wake up early, the plan fully formed in my mind. I know what I have to do, and I'm ready to do it. Laura is still asleep, her face peaceful, unaware of the storm, about to break. I go about my day as usual, pretending everything is normal. I even kiss her on the cheek before leaving for work. The gesture so practiced, so routine that it almost feels real. But inside, I'm seething, the anger bubbling just below the surface. At lunchtime, I meet with Simon at a small cafe near my office. We sit in a corner booth, the noise of the lunch crowd buzzing around us, and I lay out the final steps of the plan. I'm going to confront her tonight, I tell him, my voice steady, determined, and I want you there. Simon's eyes widen slightly, but he doesn't question me. You sure you want to do this, Alex? Once you confront her, there's no turning back. I know, I say, my hands clenching into fists on the table, but I can't live like this anymore. I need to end it for good. He nods, his expression serious. I'll be there, whatever you need. That evening, I come home earlier than usual, the house eerily quiet. Laura is in the living room, sitting on the couch with her laptop, her eyes flicking up as I walk in. Hey, she says, smiling, but there's something in her eyes, something guarded. You're home early? Yeah, I say, forcing a smile. I figured we could have dinner together. It's been a while. She hesitates, then nods, closing her laptop. That sounds nice. I'll get started on something. No need, I say, holding up a hand. I already ordered takeout. Should be here any minute. Her smile falters slightly, but she nods again. Okay. We sit in the kitchen, the silence between us thick, uncomfortable. I can see the tension in her shoulders, the way she keeps glancing at her phone as if expecting a message from him. Finally, the doorbell rings and I go to answer it, my heart pounding in my chest. Simon stands there, a grim look on his face, the takeout bags in his hands. He nods at me, then steps inside, closing the door behind him. Laura, S expression shifts as she sees him, a mix of surprise and confusion. Simon, what are you doing here? I invited him, I say, setting the bags on the table. Thought it would be nice to have a friend join us. She blinks, then forces a smile, though I can see the unease in her eyes. Of course, the more the merrier. We sit down to eat, the three of us, but the food might as well be cardboard for all I can taste. The tension is palpable, hanging over the table like a dark cloud. Laura picks at her food, her eyes darting between me and Simon, clearly sensing that something is off. Finally, I can't take it anymore. I set down my fork, my appetite gone, and look directly at her. Laura, we need to talk. She freezes her fork halfway to her mouth. What's going on, Alex? I know, I say, my voice low but firm. I know about Jeremy. I know everything. Her face goes white, the color draining away in an instant. She sets down her fork, her hands trembling slightly. Alex, I don't. I interrupt. Holding up a hand. Don, T lied to me. I've seen the emails, I've heard the recording. I know you've been cheating on me for months, maybe longer. She stares at me, her eyes wide, her mouth opening, closing as if searching for words that won't come. Finally, she manages to speak, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm sorry, Alex. I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. That's not good enough, I say, my voice shaking with anger. You've been lying to me, sneaking around behind my back, and now you expect me to just accept it? To forgive you? Tears welled up in her eyes, spilling over onto her cheeks. I never wanted to hurt you. I wasn't happy. I'm not happy, and I didn't know how to tell you. So you just decided to betray me instead? I snap, the anger boiling over. You decided to ruin everything we built together just because you weren't happy. She flinches, the tears streaming down her face. Now. I didn't know what else to do. I didn't know how to fix it. You didn't even try, I shout, standing up from the table, my fists clenched at my sides. "You didn't even give me a chance. You just gave up." The room is silent. The only sound, the ticking of the clock on the wall. Simon sits quietly, his expression unreadable, letting the confrontation play out. Finally, Laura speaks, her voice small, broken. "You're right. I didn't try, and I'm sorry, but it's too late now, isn't it?" I stare at her, my heart pounding in my chest, the weight of her words pressing down on me. She's right. It is too late. Too much has been broken. Too much has been lost. There's no going back, no fixing what's been destroyed. I want a divorce. I say the words coming out in a rush, surprising given myself. But once they're out, I know they're the truth. They're no other way forward. She stares at me, her eyes wide, the tears still flowing. "Alex, please." "No," I say, shaking my head. "It's over. Laura, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep pretending that we can fix this. You made your choice and now I'm making mine." She covers her face with her hands, sobbing quietly, the sound tearing at what's left of my heart. But I don't move to comfort her. I can't. There's nothing left to say, nothing left to salvage. Simon stands up, placing a hand on my shoulder, his voice low. "Come on, Alex, let's go." I nod, not trusting myself to speak, and follow him out of the house, leaving Laura behind as we step into the cool night air. I feel a strange sense of relief, mingled with the overwhelming sadness that threatens to consume me. "It's done." I say more to myself than to Simon. "It's really done." He nods, his expression somber. "Yeah, it's done." We walk in silence, the weight of the night pressing down on both of us. I know there's a long road ahead, a road filled with lawyers, paperwork, and the painful process of untangling our lives from one another. But for now, I'm just glad it's over. The lies, the deception, the endless cycle of anger and betrayal, it's all over. As we reach the end of the street, I stop turning to look back at the house that was once my home. The lights are still on, but it feels like a different world now. A world I no longer belong to. I hate her, I say quietly, the words slipping out before I can stop them. I hate her for what she did to us. Simon nods, his hand still on my shoulder. "I know, man, but you'll get through this. We'll get through this." I take a deep breath, forcing myself to turn away from the house, from the life I'm leaving behind. "Yeah, we will." And with that, we walk away. The darkness swallowing us up,